Well, here we are today. It is Wednesday, the day that Diane Masters is supposed to be here. And I got a phone call just a little while ago. I'm Alan Masters. She says, Alan, I just don't know if I can do it. She says, the politics is just, it's so depressing and I hate thinking about it. And I don't want to go there. And I just, it gets in my head and then it's, what I think about. And I have so much to do. I have so much business going on and we're opening this and my sister's she's a serial entrepreneur. And so we had this nice talk and she goes, I just can't do it today. I just can't do it. I can't do it. And I said, it's all right. I said, I'll do it. It's all right. And it's funny because I have started doing a midweek talk where after the radio show is done, there's an empty studio. And in the studio, if you ever see my midweek talk, I've done a couple of them now. It's just our little television studio as a backdrop of kind of the LA night scene, kind of like Jay Leno or any of these talk show guys. I bought this backdrop probably 8 years ago as a backdrop to a project I was working on for a magazine. And so I have it. So we just stuck it up on the wall and it kind of looks neat. But I come into this studio and I just sit down and I start talking. And of which I'm doing right now. We have an engineer listening. The show is pre-recorded, and you can call in and leave questions and comments, which not many people do. You can email me or David. My name is Alan, and it's real simple. 4 letters. Please don't put 2 L's and E's. It's ALAN, Alan, at FHU.com. But I sit in here, and I talk on my midweek discussion, you might call it, about something that is on my mind, or weighing on my mind or my heart, or just something that I've dealt with. And I'm going to do that today for 2 hours because there's a lot. There's a lot inside of the human mind. Phil McGeehan, who is our producer, who does a wonderful job for us, I said, I don't know what I'm going to talk about, but I'm just going to sit down and start talking. And it's interesting what comes out. And he says, well, the show should be about the human condition because that's what the foundation is all about. And this is an extension of the foundation of human understanding is what he's talking about. FHU.com is a website. And I thought, there it is. It's that simple. It truly is. This show for half a century has been about the human condition. So thank you, Phil, for that. And I'm going to take it from there because my first thought was this morning, I got into the shower and I'm kind of thinking about life. And I don't know about you, but I get in the shower and I have some of my best thoughts. Some people sing in the shower. I'm sure Phil sings, but I get in the shower and I think, and I don't know why, the running water, the warmth of it. I don't know what it is, but my mind is a fertile field of thought and I can just pick whatever I want and ask a question into the heavens and somehow an answer comes. It's crazy how it happens that way. I don't know what it is. So for me, my Zen place is the shower. And I think it's kind of funny. I remember once upon a time, I was in the shower and I was feeling doubt. I've told this story before, but it's worth telling again. I was doubting because my father had asked me to help him run his foundation at 91 years old. I think he was 90 or 91 years old. And he had no real succession plan. His succession plan was my younger brother, Mark. And that didn't work out so well. And they kind of had this little falling out. And that was the end of that. And he says, Alan, I need your help. And I'm like, whatever you need, Dad, I'll help you. I'll do whatever I can. I'm an entrepreneur, so I own my own business and have all my life. I'm 61 years old. I don't know working for other people. I know working for other people as clients, but I've not had a boss. All right, I take it back. When I was 16 years old, my very first job was at a flower shop because I wanted to drive. I wanted to be a flower delivery boy. I thought how wonderful it would be to be able to drive and just drop off flowers to pretty girls. Turned out it was a bunch of old dying women and old dying old men and dead people in the funeral home. And it was all death, death, death. Flowers are for when people are sad. Very rarely do you deliver flowers to anybody that's really that happy. It's always something death or old age or we're sorry. You know, it's really a sad job. So I didn't get what I expected. I got to drive, but it was like this pain of, Oh, my son just passed away, or my daughter, or my mother, or my father, my uncle. It was always something sad. And I just, enough of that. So that lasted until I was lying a giant wreath on an open casket in a church. And I got up there with this huge thing of flowers and I laid it on top of the open casket on the part that wasn't open, because it was half of it was open and half wasn't. And the preacher, he just goes, "Oh, up there on the stage, just put it up on the part that's not open." So I laid this huge thing of flowers up on the casket and I looked down and there was a dead woman. There was a dead woman in the casket. Of course there is, because they were going to have a ceremony. But I didn't think that until I looked down. I see the dead woman, and in my mind's eye, I see the spirit of this grabs my arm and tries to pull me into the casket. I picture that, a flash. I want to tell you, I ran. I left the flower delivery truck sitting there idling. I ran 3 miles home. Ran. I don't think I ever stopped. I just ran all the way home, ran into my bedroom and jumped in my bed like a fetus. And I was all curled up and going, I mean, that devil was trying to get me that day. And it scared the hell out of me. But back to my story. I felt very, very inadequate to take over the running of my dad's organization after 90 years of his life. He poured his whole life into it. 90 years. And here he says, "I need your help. I'm old. I need your help. This is too much for me now. And I'm taking care of your mother and I need help. I'm having to this, that, and the other." And I'm like, I'll help. What do you want me to do? "I want you to run the foundation." I'm like, ay. I got this life. Everything's going good for me. And I'm like, I gotta run my dad's what am I supposed to do? I'm this crazy entrepreneur living and loving and playing and having fun and dancing and being the grasshopper in the story of the grasshopper and the ants. I was the guy out there having fun, fiddling and playing. And all of a sudden I got to run a church. What? I got to run a church? You can do it, son. I'm like, "Dad." "Oh my gosh. All right. Well, look, to whom much is given, much is expected." So I thought, all right, I'll do what I got to do. Whatever you need me to do, I'll do it. You want me to do it? Get the board of directors to vote on it. If they vote on it, I'll do it. So they unanimously voted me as the president of my dad's organization. I'm like, oh my gosh, here we go. But I'm standing in the shower going, I just can't do this. I can't do this. And then I remember my dad telling a story about when he was baptized by a friend of his. And he said that one day I looked in the mirror and I saw this old man. And he says, "I don't know who that old man is because I'm a young spirit. But I saw this old man and I realized I hadn't been baptized." And so he asked a friend of his to baptize him in a little pond that he had on his property. And so that happened. I wasn't there that day, and I thought to myself, I'm standing in the shower, back to my shower story, standing there going, I haven't even been baptized. And I'm just standing there in the shower, butt naked. And all of a sudden, Jesus came to me and he said, "I'll baptize you now. Put your head back into the water." And I put my head back into the water. I was like, okay, what are you going to say? What are you going to say to Jesus when he says, "Put your head back into the water"? I put my head back into the water and water ran all over my face. And I was standing there and I got baptized in that moment. And I felt clean. My soul felt clean. And I kind of came out of the water and I'm like, okay, well, that's embarrassing because now Jesus is standing in the bathroom with me and I'm naked. I'm like, where'd you go? Hey, Jesus, where are you? You can't baptize me and leave like that. Where are you, Jesus? And I was standing in the shower going, I think I just got baptized. I think I just got baptized by Jesus. And I'm like, I don't know. So I was still kind of doubtful, but I felt very clean and light. My whole life changed that day. My whole life changed that day. So today is what we're going to talk about, my whole life and what it's changed and how it's changed and how you have to really go on a journey to the center of yourself, because I feel like that I am just like you and we are all like each other, and we all have to take this journey, and we're going to call this journey life. Life is a journey. And So on my journey to the center of myself now, like I talked about the movie, The Journey to the Center of the Earth. I mean, it was a movie, I don't know, probably from the late 50s sometime, early 60s. And I remember watching that movie as a little boy going, wow, they're going down inside the earth. And I have just vague memories of things they saw and monsters and hot lava and all this, amazing stuff in the center of the earth. But what it took was the one courageous man that had courage. And then they had all the other emotions were the other people that were there. The woman and the scared cowardice guy, the betrayer, all these other people that were part of the journey to the center of the earth. We have all that inside of us. The jealous person, the coward, the courageous man or woman. But as we go on this journey to the center of ourselves, we encounter some pretty ugly monsters, some pretty hot lava that we feel will just destroy us inside of our own selves. Now, this morning, I found something from Dr. Jordan B. Peterson that was so interesting. I got to read it to you. It's a little meme thing he made. It says, you have to be willing to be a fool to advance. And I went, huh? You have to be willing to be a fool, and the word fool is underlined, to advance. And that's also underlined. And then up above, it says, above the meme, because if you know the social media thing, the meme catches your eye. It says, you have to be a fool before you can be a master. And if you're not willing to be a fool, then you cannot become a master. The fool precedes the master. I love Dr. Jordan B. Peterson. He's about the same age as me. I've talked to him on the phone before. I told the guy, I said, I got to tell you, I just love you. He is a brilliant thinker, and he just literally went through hell. And on the other side of this, thank God he's emerging again and becoming, back to a better version of himself. So think about what that means. Okay, let's go back to the shower. I'm standing there feeling like a fool. And feeling like, everybody's going to see right through this guy. I'm not Roy Masters. I'm not my dad. My dad's a guru. He's written all these books from Cure Stress, How Your Mind Will Make You Well, From Despair to Meaning and Happiness, The Secret Power of Words, The Secrets of a Parallel Universe, Eat No Evil, The Adam and Eve Syndrome. I'm just reading a couple that are across my desk right here. My dad is an amazing, brilliant man. Dr. Peterson is an amazing, brilliant man. I've had people write many letters. I just got one recently from a lady in Hawaii. She says, I was so mad because I wanted to be like your dad. I wanted to be like this brilliant man. I wanted to sound and talk like this brilliant guy, but I couldn't. And I thought, man, I want to be like my dad. I want to be brilliant. I want to sound brilliant. I want to write books, but I can't because I'm still that fool. I still feel like a fool a lot of times. I have to feel like a fool. Let me read that again. You have to be willing to be a fool to advance. And what happens is, you have to reach that point instead of thinking you're so brilliant, instead of looking at the plaque on the wall that says Dr. So-and-so or PhD this or whatever degree that. You got to look at that and go, that means nothing in the scheme of the spiritual world. Because at the end of the day, all this is for naught if you don't have a soul. What profit a man to gain the whole world? And you know the rest, but lose his soul in the process. What good is it? So guess what? I look all around me and I think of all the brilliant things I may have done in my own head. Everybody else looks at it and goes, huh? I don't see anything brilliant. But in my own head, I think I'm just brilliant. I've done this, I've done that, I've accomplished this, I got that, I got this. I look around me and I say, yeah, I'm a smart guy. I'm a pretty intelligent man. What is that? That's the ego. That is the stupid, goat-faced ego. It is just a stupid thing, and it gives you your value system if you're not careful. What is your value system? What do you truly value? If all you have in your life, if you look around you, is things and things and things and big things, McMansions and fancy cars, but you look at the path behind you where your family and loved ones are supposed to be following you on this journey called life, and no one's there, it's because somewhere along the way you focused on things that were not truly important, and those people fell away and you never even knew it. You never looked back and said, hey, wife, where are you? Son, daughter, where are you? Where'd you go? Hey, anybody there? Anybody there? No, because you focused on the wrong things. You focused on the material world, the outer being. That was more important than what's going on the inside. What profit a man to gain the whole world, but lose his soul in the process? All I can say is that I look at my life and I go, whew, man, I am so glad that I had a dad that was there constantly bringing me back to my center, smacking me in the head if he need to. Hey, wake up there, kid. What are you doing? Oh, huh? What? You think that's wrong? I know it's wrong, and so do you. He wouldn't just say, I know it's wrong. He would always say, and so do you, because we all do have that knowing inside of us. I know it's wrong, and so do you. We all know things are wrong. I know it's wrong, and so do you. But we do it anyway. And guess what? We have our lives, and we spend it foolishly. Now, I'm not going to spend the rest of my life foolishly. I've been given this wonderful, unbelievable life. I've had a lot of fun, but I can tell you right now, I still watch my little herd of family. I feel like I'm a shepherd, but my family are not sheep. They're all awake. But I watch and I herd my little family to safety constantly and bring them back to their center, try and make them aware and conscious and bring their consciousness up instead of, because the world is constantly trying to pull it down, instead of trying to make them feel it's okay. It's all right. Everybody goes through this. Well, we do. But you know what? We can make it together. United we stand. No man is a mountain. You've heard all these things. We're not meant to be alone. We can be alone. It's far easier to be alone. Far easier. You just only have to deal with your own self and your own thoughts. But when you are placed in an environment with lots of people, your workplace, your family, the world, you have a choice. You either become an example or a good example, or you become a bad example, I guess. What's the opposite of being a good example? A bad example. So what are the tips and tools we can use to make the human condition a more valuable experience? Because the human condition, it's trying to think how I said the other day, who was it? I was quoting somebody and I can't remember who it is, but so forgive me for not quoting the right person. And maybe it was my father. I don't even know who it was, but there is no darkness. There is only the absence of light. Okay. And I can't remember who said that. There is no darkness. Darkness doesn't exist. It's just the absence of light, right? The same with when it comes to physics. There is no cold. There is only the absence of heat. Same kind of a thing, which is very interesting if you think about that. It's very interesting because when I think of evil, I think of it as the darkness, okay? It is the dark side. I mean, come on. Star Wars, the dark side, the force, may the force be with you. What is the force? The force is energy, is light. The dark side of us is the absence of light. We've been talking about this a little bit on the Sunday conversations and what have you. But there are tools and tips that you can have. That's what we do. That's what our foundation is about, the foundation of human understanding. I get it. My family, we were talking about, after my father passed away, one of my brothers said, maybe we should change the name of FHU. I'm like, no, No, it's the foundation of human understanding, FHU. And it's like, well, it's a church, and why don't we call it the church of whatever? I'm like, no. And I actually thought about it. I thought, well, maybe, but wait a minute. We're the children of Roy Masters, and he started this foundation in 1963, the foundation of human understanding, which is the journey to the center of yourself. It's really that. It's like, what is this world all about? We see movies made about the human experience, the journey to the center of yourself. The Matrix is probably one of my favorite ones. It's like there's something going on more than what is on the surface. That's the movie, The Matrix. The foundation of human understanding. What is your foundation? What is it? If you build a house, you don't say, hey, do me a favor and bring 20 yards of sand over. We're going to build a foundation out of sand. Well, because people say, well, you can't build a foundation out of sand unless you mix it with concrete and, gravel and all these other things and make concrete, Well, no, we're going to try sand because it's easier to work with and it's not so messy. No, it won't work. You can't build a house on sand. Well, you could, it would just fall over though. It would just erode. No, you got to have a foundation built out of concrete or some steel, something strong. What is the foundation of your life? What is it? Have you ever even thought that? What are you built on? What are your virtues and values and principles and morals, and what are they? God gave us the 10 commandments, not the 10 suggestions. So what are your 10 commandments? If you said, okay, I'm the God of my little nuclear universe world, my family, and I'm the king of my castle, and what would your 10 commandments be? What would your foundation of life consist of? Most people don't give this a thought at all. I can't even tell you I have, because I grew up with it. I was born into the classroom. My mom gave birth to me right into a chair in my father's classroom. And here I was one of his students, and I was also one of his examples many times on the radio. My son, Alan. And I'm like, oh, Dad, don't talk about that. The whole world knows my problems. But you know what? Back to Dr. Jordan B. Peterson. You have to be willing to be a fool to advance. Kwai Chang Caine from Kung Fu. Grasshopper, when you can snatch the pebble from my hand, it will be time for you to leave. I remember that. You remember that from the 70s? I think it was probably the 70s. Kung Fu, Kwai Chang Caine. That's the same thing as you have to be willing to be a fool to advance. So in other words, it's interesting because if you think of Kwai Chang Caine, he had to be faster than the blind guy that was his guru at the time. I don't know whatever you call his guru, but he was blind, but his senses were so heightened. He could feel and almost see spiritually the moment before Kwai Chang Caine tried to snatch the pebble, and he'd close his hand. And he never could get that pebble until the day he did. Then it was time for him to go on his journey out into the world. Until then, he was a student. For me, it took till I was 58 years old when my dad said, I need you to help me. And then I had to make a decision because 7 years prior to that, I did a Sunday talk when my father was sick one time, and I said, I stand ready. I said, if my dad ever needs me, something happens to him, I stand ready. Because who will fill those shoes? I thought, well, not me, but I'll be there. I'll show up, and just in case, But I stand ready. I'll try my best, people. And so guess what? When he said to me those words, I said, okay, I'll do what I got to do, and I'm going to feel like a fool. I felt like a fool for 3 years. You have to be willing to be a fool to advance. The fool precedes the master. Dr. Jordan B. Peterson. I love that guy. I just love him. So here I sit, still feeling like a fool. I'm okay being a fool. I'm okay feeling like a fool because I know this is temporary. Because as I can shed the skin of the lizard that feels like a fool, or maybe if I change that a little bit too, because on the way in, oh my gosh, I took a picture of it. On the way in was this beautiful, I'm going to say moth, butterfly kind of creature that was on the sidewalk in front of me. And I stopped and I picked it up because it was obviously, I thought, well, is it dead? It's not moving. So I reached down and I gave it a little nudge with my finger and it didn't move. So I picked it up and sure enough, it was dead. But it was the most beautiful butterfly moth looking thing. And I realize right now that was a little message to me from God, because I'm here explaining the lizard or the snake losing its skin, and then I'm about to change it to a butterfly. And I went, wait a minute, I just took a picture of a butterfly. I'm going to post it. You'll see it. Go to the Advice Line Radio Facebook page, and you'll see it. Advice Line Radio Facebook page. So as I change, I go through the metamorphosis that a caterpillar, an ugly, creepy crawler caterpillar, that nobody really likes a caterpillar. They're kind of harmless, but nobody really likes them. They're gross. They're yuck. Who wants to, have a little pet caterpillar? Nobody. But you want to have a pet butterfly. As I go through the metamorphosis from the caterpillar to the butterfly, it's not easy, but one precedes the other. So I realize, as I have completely become comfortable with not knowing, that the answer doesn't come from my head anyway. My head is the intellectual world. My head is the knowledge and the schooling that I've had, the data, the lifetime of data that has been collected in the RAM of my head, in the thoughts, in the memory banks of my head. But when I can get out of that monkey brain, my dad calls it, when I can get out of that head and become a spiritual being, that head is just almost like a jelly bean jar. I look at it from a distance and I go, look at all those jelly beans. They're colorful little things, aren't they? Those are all thoughts and memories and schools and lessons I've learned and mistakes I've made and good deeds I've done where I felt like I did something good, and maybe that one's bright yellow and the angry ones are red, and then there's the brown ones. Well, what kind? Root beer? No, that's like poop. I don't know, but inside that jelly bean jar of a head of mine is just a bunch of junk. And what is it all? Sugar. It's all just a bunch of bright colored pieces of sugar. I don't want to be stuck in that world. That brain of mine, that head of mine is an intellectual landmine field. There's problems everywhere. You know why? Because if you believe your own self, you believe your own head. A person said to me one time that was in the public relations business, they said, never make the mistake by believing your own PR. And I went, wow, that's heavy. So what you mean is you're telling the world this, that, and the other, and how great you are, and how this and all that, and this and that, and your company does this, and your company does that, but you're not supposed to actually believe it because it's not really the truth? No, don't believe your own PR. The truth is what the truth is. It's not what you spin to the world. Bill O'Reilly used to call his show the spin zone, the no spin zone, right? And I get it. That head is a landmine field. All kinds of thoughts exploding as you walk on them. And guess what? You know what it does? It takes you away from the spiritual self that you're supposed to find on this journey called life. All right. Well, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about here. It's just coming out, so I'm going to keep it going. It's kind of fun when you get out of the head because something else comes in there. So one of our friends at our Sunday talk said something the other day. He says, your dad, he wrote this book, and it's called How Your Mind Will Make You Well. And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, but you know what? The mind doesn't make you well. And I was like, huh? What? So he says, that was like, your dad was like tricking us with this, how your mind will make you well. It was originally called how your mind will keep you well. And then he changed it to how your mind will make you well. And now it's funny because it's actually called Cure Stress, How Your Mind Will Make You Well by Roy Masters. But then I thought to myself, I let that just roll around like a ball in the roulette wheel, going around and around and around. And I'm like, when is this ball going to drop? When is the penny going to drop? I thought, what does he mean? So what came to me, because I'm sitting here looking at this book, and I'm like, the mind. I'm talking about the mind being a mind field, but a mind that explodes, right? And the mind is a very interesting thing. And I thought, what came into my mind was this. Ready? Are you ready for this? This is kind of weird. Water, water everywhere, but not a drop to drink. Here was a man in a boat, and there was water everywhere, but he was thirsting, but he couldn't drink the salt water. Because if you drink the salt water, it dehydrates you, make it even worse. Water, water everywhere, but not a drop to drink. Back to the mind. Here is the mind. Thoughts everywhere, but not one that will save your soul. Not one of your thoughts can save your soul. Same thing as water, water everywhere, but not a drop to drink. Thoughts everywhere, but not one that will help you. Because, see, it isn't the thoughts at all. It isn't your intellect at all. It isn't in your head at all. It's really this little exercise my dad had that was the be still and know. Be still and know that I am God, God says. So in the reality of it all, we must be still, remove ourselves, separate ourselves from the thoughts themselves that are saying, I'm the only one that can save you. I'm the only one. The intellect says this. I'm the only one. You're nothing without me. You're just a fool without me. So there you have it. I go, wait a minute. But God says, be still and know that I am God. In other words, get rid of those thoughts. Don't believe those thoughts. Be still, and I will put my knowing inside of your soul, and you will know what to do. You don't have to think about it. Do you have to think about it? Let me see here. Let's plan out our day here. So we're going to do this, that, and the other. We're going to turn left on this corner, and we're going to walk down that street. That's insanity. You have to walk with God, not knowing what's next sometimes. I'm not saying you don't kind of, have a knowing of where you're going and what you're doing each day, but listen, if something says, hey, come here, go this way, and you're like, what, huh? Turn that way? Or, hey, slow down. Because you don't really hear words. You just hear kind of a little knowing. I'll give you an example of this. My wife, I think we had 3 children. She was driving a little bit fast, and she remembers looking down at her speedometer going, I'm going 55, and it's a 45 zone. I better slow down a little bit. Something said, you better slow down. So she looked down. She thought, I'm going to slow down. She goes, and I slowed way down. And then there was a street coming kind of like a Y coming onto the street that she was on. And she says, as I was approaching that street, just a little tiny bit before she got to the street, she had this premonition. She had this little, hey, slow down. Or I don't know, I don't know how it came for her, but it was something said, you better slow down. She slowed down off the side street, and it was a Y, a merge, merging traffic. Came this barreling, crazy driver, completely insane, vroom. And she said, had I not slowed down, he would have completely sideswiped us, and it would have been a horrible accident. A horrible accident. She says, I knew that God put his hand out and told me to slow down, or gave me the premonition, whatever you want to say. There is a difference between your head saying to you, you're going 55, the police will allow a speeding of 9 miles an hour over the speed limit before they give you a ticket. And if you're going 10, you may be going just a little bit too fast, but because they actually will say, 9 miles an hour, I'm probably not going to pull you over. But if you're going 10 over, I'm going to give you a ticket. So you can have this intellectual conversation inside your own head. And while you're doing that, bam, you get sideswiped by that crazy guy because you weren't living in the moment. You weren't living in that quiet, still place. The intellect will just give you a million thoughts. It'll keep you entertained or it'll torture you and make you live in fear, and it'll try its best to make you think that the only answer is more knowledge, more books and more things that you have to try and do and all this. But when God says it's real simple, be still and know that I am God. Because guess what? If God created the heavens and the earths, and God saved everybody the last time when he brought the Jews out of Egypt, don't you think he can save us again? Heck yeah. I don't even, that's like the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Why would you even question that? I don't question it. I just think to myself, man, I got to get out of my head. So I hope that, out of this human condition thing that Phil said early on, isn't that what the foundation is all about, is the human condition? What are some of the tips and tools that you can use to get out of your head? Well, it starts really simply with this 7-minute exercise that's on our website. Because what are the chances? What are the chances that he was right, my father, Roy Masters? What are the chances? Pretty good. But what does it hurt if you give it a try and all of a sudden you're like, wow, I see things a little more clearly. I'm not tortured by my thoughts. All of a sudden I can just separate from them. That's what it's all about. That's what our organization is all about, is to help you on this journey to the center of yourself, on this journey to find God and your Savior, which dwells within. So give it a try. Check out our website, fhu.com, and you can find the 7-minute meditation or the Be Still and Know meditation exercise. For the military folks, you can also find patriotoutreach.org, the same exact exercise created just for the military called Coping Strategy. Coping Strategies has helped thousands upon thousands of service members gain their lives back. I want to talk about this thing called the human condition, and I have a few things I want to talk about in that regard and some tips and tools that people can use to find the eye of the storm, the center of our universe individually. Each one of us, we each one have a center, a calm place. And so we at the foundation of human understanding, we've been using these tools for over 50 years, a little concentration meditation exercise that it works great. It takes 7 minutes, and it's simple as heck. If you've never done it, then you can go to our website and find it. Those who have been listening, for many of them for 20, 30, 40, 50 years to my father, they get it. They understand it. Their life is different because of it. And God bless them. But we're living in a perilous world right now where we are being called to wake up. We are being called to wake up. In other words, there have been many years of this world where people kind of were just living in this trance, this sleep state, or my father calls it the hypnotic states of Americans. He has the book. And we have been living in that, but God is calling us right now, I think. He's calling us to wake up, to lift our heads up, to look into his eyes for the answers, and to look at his face, and to be conscious of him, be God conscious, and not just be taken over by the shiny things of the world. I want to talk to you a little bit about that as this next hour goes on. And I have a bunch of things that I've, saved. I just found one, cognitive dissonance. I'll talk about that in a minute. So when I say I don't have notes, I don't, but I have my phone. I can pull up, what was that meme I saw? So I'm going to read you that one, because this is a word I just learned in the last, year and a half, 2 years, whatever. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's interesting. I am not a very smart individual when it comes to street smart, yes. When it comes to book smart, no. I'm not a person that went to college. I did go to college to learn how to weld. Okay. I learned how to weld, and as soon as I learned how to weld and I mastered it, I quit. So yeah, I went to college, junior college. Then I took real estate for a few weeks and I was like, oh, this is boring. But now I'm really into real estate, which is really funny. And I wish I would have taken that class a little further, but I'm not a very smart, book smart kind of person. So when I see something that catches my eye, I'm like, oh, look at that. And then guess what? I'm like a flower that kind of blossoms every time I learn something. I feel like I blossom. I open up. It opens up new pathways in my mind and in my heart and in my soul. And I'm learning things for the first time at 61 years old. Stupid things that I learned that in the 10th grade. Okay, great. I learned that in my first year of college. Okay, great. Well, you didn't learn how to weld, did you? Come on, let's go over here and have a welding competition. But anyway, that's not what it's about. I'm just not that smart of a guy. And as I was reading to you earlier, in case you missed what I talked about from Jordan B. Peterson, Dr. Peterson, you have to be willing to be a fool to advance. Okay. So at this point in my life, I have decided that I'm just willing to be a fool and admit that I don't know. Admit it. You can listen, CEOs of giant corporations often have to admit, I don't know. Let's find somebody that does. Let's find an expert, or let's find somebody that's doing it and say, hey, how did you learn that? Or can you explain what it is you're doing? Because we're trying to do that, but we're not doing it right somehow. And we just can't figure it out. This happens all the time. A good story of that is as Henry Ford wanted to make a V8 engine. He wanted to make a V8 engine because they haven't always been around. It was 4 cylinders or inline 4, 6, 8, 12. I don't know how many they had. It was like these gigantic engines, but he thought, wow, this would really package better if we had a V-shaped engine, V8. So he told his engineers, I want you guys to make a V8 engine. And they're like, it can't be done. He's like, well, you better figure it out. I'm going to give you a month to figure it out. So he kept on going back every week. No, we can't figure it out. It doesn't work. It's not balanced right. It doesn't do this. It doesn't do that. And all of a sudden, he got to the point where he was like really fed up. He's like, all right, here's the deal. You either figure this out. Here's the challenge. You either figure it out or I'm going to hire new engineers and they'll figure it out. So I guess at a certain point, he put enough pressure on them that they figured out how to create a V8 engine. So this is where necessity was the mother of invention for him. He's like, we got to package this different. And so, even though they told him it can't be done, well, it could be done. It just took some really deep thinking for these engineers. So I don't know where I was going with that, but I think life is that way. Sometimes you have to really get to a point where you're about to lose your job or lose your marriage or lose your life. Now, maybe this is where I'm going. A friend of mine got COVID and he was about to die. Now, I had COVID. I don't feel like I was ever about to die, but he was about to die and he had this kind of awakening. Okay. Now, has he woken up? Not completely, because you can also get arrogant and say, God saved my life, and now I'm going to go out and do even more of what I was doing because he wants me to live and love and enjoy my life and appreciate the beauty of this world. And there may be some truth to some of that stuff. But when you have experienced a near-death experience that wakes you up, that wakes up something inside of you, you better listen and you better seek and search for certain answers in your life that have yet to be answered. If you just kind of live, again, like I said earlier in the show, like the grasshopper, the fiddling grasshopper with the story of the ants and the grasshopper. I lived out there, singing my songs, playing my fiddle, having fun, until one day I experienced life and death. My wife gave birth to a baby on my 30th birthday that died in birth. That's a wake-up call. But like my friend that got COVID and almost died, I only woke up partially on this journey called life. You don't just have this one like, whoa, you wake up one day and everything's fine and you're going to go straight to heaven and everything you touch, you're doing miracles all over the place. No, it doesn't happen like that. Sorry. I mean, I'm not saying it couldn't, because if Jesus come back, all things are possible with Jesus, but it doesn't usually happen like that times 7 billion people that are on the earth. So you have to experience all kinds of life and death experiences to bring you closer to the center of you. Now, that's an interesting thought. So where was I? Baby dies. Very sad. I thought, why, God? Why me? Why? Why me, God? I'm like one of yours. Aren't I a chosen? Aren't I like the movie on television right now, The Chosen? Aren't I a chosen? Don't a lot of us think we're chosen? We're chosen by God because we're a little bit awake. We're a little bit more awake than the next guy or than most of your friends. Like I used to say to my dad, well, I'm way better than my friends. He says, don't compare yourself to your stupid friends. You want to compare yourself to somebody? Compare yourself to Jesus Christ. Now, how smart do you feel? All right. I'm not that chosen, am I? But I thought, why God? Why me? And then guess what? I started the next, shifted from first to second gear, the next phase of my life. Man, we have to have these experiences. This is the data capture that you have to do in your life that wake you up, that bring you to a place where maybe you are today. Where are you? What is the foundation of your life? What do you really believe in? Who are you? What is your why? I'm finding my why. I'm finding my voice. Can you hear it? Can you hear my voice? I can. I love it. I'll get to cognitive dissonance in a moment, but that's the only notes I have is basically things that I've just gathered along in my little goodie bag. But I said something on the way out of that one. I said, I love it. And I thought, not God. God spoke into my heart a little knowing. He said, good. You must love yourself. And I thought, well, wait a minute. I don't love myself because I still feel like that bumbling fool. But I love the little child, the innocent child spirit that is inside of me. The same way that I love my grandchildren and my children and my wife and their little innocence that they have inside of them, the little child that we all are inside, deep down inside. I guess I've never thought about loving myself. Right? Have you ever thought about loving yourself and your spirit, your soul? Because isn't that what it's all about? If you don't love your own soul and love your creator from which it came and love his son who he also gave, that gave his life, that really was guilty of nothing and gave his life for us so that we could follow him back to our Father in heaven. We have to be selfish, selfless people and be doers of good, I think. But we don't even really know what good is. How can you be a doer of good when you really don't know how to do good because we're such selfish creatures? So I come to this point where I said, I love it. I love that my voice, that I'm hearing in my own self, this person that is innocent, don't want to hurt anyone, don't want anyone to hurt me or my innocence. Remember in the movie Lord of the Rings how Gollum, the ugly creature that was always lusting after the ring, and he says, oh, precious, precious. He was lusting after that gold ring. And that gold ring, we could call that gold ring, something that he didn't have, right? And that is how the evil in this world, in the dark side of this world, lusts after our innocence. Lusts after it. Not gold and silver. That's just stupid things of this world. But what is the most important thing of the spirit world? Your soul. And Gollum or Beelzebub, Satan, the devil, lusts after your soul. Lusts after it. Precious. Oh, precious. And he reaches for it and he tries to steal it when you're not looking. Steal it when you're not conscious and aware. Steal it when he's giving you poison. Poison that will help him to lull you into that hypnotic state he needs you to be in so he can harvest your soul, the precious soul that God gave you. Not the body God gave you. Who cares about the body God gave you? It's only a house for the soul. It's heavy stuff. Oh, precious, precious. Can't you just see the devil looking at your soul? That's what he wants, not the golden ring. That's just a metaphor for your soul, an outward, something to be had that has mystical and magical powers. That's what the soul has. Mystical and magical powers that the devil doesn't understand. He just knows. It's like in the movie The Dark Crystal. If you've ever seen The Dark Crystal, Jim Henson did such a great job. They would take the little gelfling, which were the little people, the little sweet people that were just doing their jobs, and they would grab them and they would harvest them up kind of like little animals, and they would take them in and they would put them in a chair and they would open up the light from the dark crystal, which isn't that interesting, light from a dark crystal, and they would allow the light to go into the eyes of the little gelfling creatures, and then their vital essence would drain out of them into a little beaker. And then the skexy, the things that look like vultures, would take the little vial and they'd drink it. And they would, oh, it's so good. Oh, they'd drink it down a little bit. And then they would show their wrinkles disappearing. Because from the gelfling's vital essence, it gave youth and it gave life to these evil creatures. Isn't that symbolic? Oh my gosh, it's exactly what happens when Satan, Beelzebub, when the soulless one looks at your soul, it gives him a little bit of life. He lives a little longer because of your soul. Every time he steals a soul, gets a little more life. Life of the darkness, that is. Isn't that interesting? So we have this precious thing called a soul that we must protect. So I look at my soul and I see, oh, there's that little boy. There's that little sweet, innocent little Alan, that little boy that was born from God through my parents, that brought me up and nurtured me and loved me. There he is. There's his voice. There it is. It's from God. It's from God. His voice is from God. Let him speak. Let him speak. And if I don't use my voice, this man, this gristly old man at this point, a senior citizen who's going to be on welfare, maybe not. I think I've been a pretty good entrepreneur, but this old man can now speak with this young voice. Yes. Yes, you can too. But you've got to return to the innocent. I've said this before. I know it in my soul. You've got to return to yourself, to the innocent self that you are, the little boy, the little girl that really knows the truth, that hears it from his or her creator inside of their soul and moves with that knowing. Be still and know that I am God. In the Bible, a husband knows his wife. Now, you could say, well, that's having sex. But no, it's a lot more than that. It's a lot more than that. You become two souls connected. And that's why you'll find that a lot of people, when one perishes, one dies, the other one goes very shortly thereafter, if they're properly yoked and connected. But also, it says in the Bible that in order to enter the kingdom of heaven, you must return back like a child. Okay, so I'm finding my voice, and I'm using the tools that my father left behind. Are they worn out? No. They'll never wear out. Check out our website, FHU.com. F is in Frank, FHU.com, the foundation of human understanding. But let me just ask you something. Have you ever had a core belief and found out that it was wrong? Have you ever gotten to that stage of your life where you're like, oh my God, I've been taught this my whole life and it's wrong. It's how about this? It's not right. It's not correct. It's not true. I see it happening for people in religions, certain religions. They find the hypocrisy and they find things that are just not right. Enter cognitive dissonance. Now, I saw this meme and it struck me, and because it's not like what the thesaurus says about cognitive dissonance. Here's what it says. Sometimes people hold a core belief that is very strong. When they are presented with evidence that works against that belief, the new evidence cannot be accepted. Okay? It goes on. It creates a feeling that is extremely uncomfortable called cognitive dissonance. And because it is so important to protect the core belief, they will rationalize, ignore, and even deny anything that doesn't fit in with that core belief. Okay, so now think about that. You go through 50 years of your life, or let's just say you go through 50 years of being an adult. So you're 70 years old, or in my case, 61 years old. In your case, whatever it is, just however many years, but a half a century, my dad's been talking about this stuff. So for me, since I was about 10 years old, I've been hearing all this stuff all the time. What's my dad's favorite saying? You'd rather be dead than wrong. Cognitive dissonance. So we get to this place where we go, I think my wife is right about me. I'm a pig, or whatever it is, because men that are lustful and their wives like saying, you're just such a pig, knock it off. But the reality is you have to at some point go, yeah, I guess I'm more like an animal than a man. What should a man be? What is a man supposed to be? What is a woman supposed to be? How should a woman be in marriage, in relationships, in this workplace, in the world, whatever it is? Have you ever even asked these questions? Or are you just stuck on your core beliefs that you were taught since you were a little kid? You went to church and you learned this, that, and the other. You're a Mormon and you learned this, that, and the other. You're a Muslim and you learned this, that, and the other. You're a Christian and you learned this, that, and the other. But wait a minute. Something in there was awry. I've been taught something, 1 + 1 = 3, or 1 + 1 = whatever it is, and all of a sudden you're like, no, it's not. 1 + 1 = 2. You know what a guy said the other day? Somebody was explaining something with this incredible explanation, and he says, sometimes a banana is just a banana. And so we get so caught up in that monkey brain, that intellectual monkey brain. You can see people arguing on social media all the time. And if you don't just go, sometimes a banana is just a banana. Sometimes that is just cognitive dissonance. People that refuse to see the truth, even though they're being shown tons of really good scientific information. And you can fill in the blank for whatever you think it might be, because there's people that are for vaccinating and there's people that are against vaccinating. So guess what? You got to make that choice on your own. But we'll just use that as an example for a minute. But let's just call it religion. I have a friend who's been Mormon his whole life, grew up Mormon, teaching Mormon religion, teaching doctrine. And man, did he have an awakening. Oh my gosh. He said, all my life, I've been taught all these things. And I, too, as my father before me, have been teaching these things. Now, he wasn't actually saying any of these things were wrong. He says, but I realize I have to put the teachings of my father on the altar of my one true father and learn from him now. And I was like, holy crap, what did he just say? Wait a minute, back up. Say it again, my friend, say it again. I've got to put the teachings of my father on the altar of my one true father, your Father in heaven, and learn from him. Directly, one-on-one communication, not something you learned, not some book that you hand out to everybody and say, read this. but directly from your Father in heaven, spoken right into your heart. OMG. He said that. And I went, that is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard in my life. Because just like you, my Father has taught me many things, and my Father has written many books, and I love every single one of them, and they each one are building blocks to make me the man I am today. But the little boy, that little spirit, the precious spirit, my soul, the one true Alan, or the one true you, has a connection with the living God. The connection with the living God, that I don't have to learn anything from books. I don't have to read a single word. All I have to do is ask my Father in heaven. So I got to put all my dad's books on the altar of God and say, Father in heaven, speak into my soul. I love you. I cherish you. I love what you have given me in my life and my family and my children and all the people in my life. And I want to hear your great wisdom. And what shall I do for you, my Father in heaven? What shall I do for you? What is my purpose, Father? And guess what? I'm not saying I'm going to burn my dad's books, but I offer them to God saying, I get it. I can read all my dad's book and I can mimic him. I can be a puppet. I can sound like him, but that's not what my dad wanted. That is not what Roy Masters wanted for any of us. He closed his church doors, church air quotes, church doors, where you would come and sit inside of the pews of the church. And he said, quit putting me on a pedestal. It's him. And he pointed to God. It's him you must find and follow. I'm just a guy holding a lamp. Don't be like a moth and get stuck at the lamppost. Keep going. Only the moth, the blind, the foolish moths, they continue swirling around until they go, I can't, I'm being pulled into the light. And then it's not even it's a trick. If you keep thinking you're going to find all the answers from one man that is alive on this earth today, it ain't going to happen. That is a trick the devil makes. He wants to get you stuck on your pastor at your church, get you stuck on one guy that has got really good things to say. But no, you got to put all that on the altar of your Father in heaven. And you got to say, listen, this has been great. There's been many lampposts in my life, but Lord, I hear you. I know you're there. I hear you. And I will follow you, and I will be obedient to you, and I will love you with all my mind, my heart, and my soul. That is what we're supposed to do as human beings, because otherwise we're just moths going around the flame until it burns us out. So I'm sorry if that was disturbing, and I'm sure it probably was for some, because it's a pretty hard thing to actually hear a guy say sometimes, because my dad is the guru. My dad is the guru. He was the guru for many people, for many of you listening for many years. But my dad is just a guy holding a lamp under your feet. I'm just a guy holding a lamp under your feet. Now, you can certainly appreciate that. My dad's not just a lamppost. He was a man that had all these wonderful, beautiful things to say. I am a man. I may say some wonderful, beautiful things, but I don't want anybody putting me on a pedestal. Then I become a lamp. Then I'm just a lamp on a lamp pedestal. I don't want that. My job, just like my dad before me, was to be a lamp under your feet to show you the path back to where you came from, which is God. Jesus, your Savior, was sent here to do the same job. We, after Jesus, were supposed to do the same job. My dad said, the one lady says to him, what am I going to do when you're gone, Roy Masters? What am I going to do? I don't know what to do. And he says, nonsense. He says, just like when Jesus left, he says, the disciples continued on and they took and they spread the word. We're supposed to spread the word. If you're not, then you are hoarding manna from heaven. And if you watch the 10 Commandments, what happened to the manna that was in the baskets of the people that were hoarding it? The next day, it turned into a basket of worms. It has a shelf life, people. Your life has a shelf life. And if you don't listen, if you don't transcend this human creature that you've become and move upward towards your heavenly Father and learn how to just, drop this old wrinkled up body off at the graveyard on your way to heaven, then you're going to be stuck like that pile of dead moths around the bottom of the lamppost. You're not going to ever go the distance. I want to go the distance. I want to finish well. I want to love my Creator. I say all this in Jesus' name. Amen. So I said earlier, tips and tools. The tips are this radio show, our Sunday conversation. We give all kinds of tips. The tools are, well, really just one really good, we'll call it a multi-tool. That's the be still and know exercise. You got to get to your center. You think about a tornado. We've had a tornado going on down on the East Coast. And in the eye of the tornado is this calm, still place. And in that place, you can take a minute and make some decisions what you should do. But when you're caught up in the tornado, all you're doing is running for your life. Are you running from your life? Are you running from your life? I actually said that right. Or are you running to the center to find what you need to do next? And I think that's the idea here. Let's find the center. Find the stillness in the tornado called you. Your life is a big tornado of thoughts and whirling dervish. Around and around you go, and where you stop, nobody knows. And you keep doing everything over and over again, expecting a different outcome. It doesn't work that way. Slow down, sit down, try the meditation exercise. Try the be still and know exercise. I don't have to call it meditation. It is, but just try this little concentration exercise. See if you don't find a little bit of stillness there, okay? So FHU.com, F as in Frank, FHU.com is where you can find it. You can also find Sunday conversations that I've done. And Wednesday, I do a Wednesday kind of midweek thing. I may not do one this week because I just did this. And wowzer, this was pretty intense. So may skip one this week. But we all need a day of reckoning. And we don't get that till we're in a catastrophe, till we're in an actual tornado. Forget that our life is a little mini eddy, a little tiny little tornado going on. You can have 4 or 5 of them in one household, tornadoes everywhere, and nobody's finding their center. They're just banging into each other. But we have this tornado in life right now that is also going on all around the world. And how few of us are able to find our center with all of this information overload. It's information digestion and indigestion. You can't even swallow all the information. You can't digest it. It's stuck and it's going to kill you. So you got to take a step back and fast. Do an information fast. That's what you got to do. Turn it off. 2 days, 2 or 3 days. The world is still going to be here for the most part. If you think, every day I got to know. Remember that? Clint Eastwood, I gots to know. Did he shoot 9 bullets or 8 bullets or whatever, 5 or 6 bullets, whatever it was, or 5-6 shooter, whatever it was. You know what I'm talking about. Clint Eastwood movie, Dirty Harry. Anyway, we need a day of reckoning, because in those moments when I was talking about my friend that was in the hospital, almost died, he had a bit of a day of reckoning when my wife gave birth to our little baby girl that died on my birthday, my 30th birthday. So 31 years ago today, not today, in July, or when was it? June 21st. I had to think about my birthday. 31 years ago, June 21st. That was my day of reckoning. I didn't wake up. So guess what? How many days of reckoning do I need? I woke up a little. I shifted gears. I continued on with my life. how many days of reckoning do we need? I have decided that we're going to do a seminar called The Reckoning. And we are going to invite you folks that want to come, and there's a price for it. It's not going to be real cheap too, because I'm having to do all this work at the ranch. We're going to do it at Tall Timber Ranch in Oregon, and we're having to fix the place up and get ready for it. So yes, it's always got a price, but that's not the point. If you got a little bit of money, then you can probably afford it. The Reckoning is going to be a 3-day seminar, October 21 through 24 of 2021. And I know something inside says, but we can't travel. They're making us wear a mask. You can't travel without a vaccination. What are we going to do? Oh, woe is me. Take the trip. That's what I say. Do it anyway. Okay. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you got to drive up. Maybe you got to hitchhike. I don't know how you're going to get here, but we're only going to have I'm going to limit it to 40 people. And I know that you are listening right now going, well, I got to make a call quick. I got to make a call quick. We're also not just going to let anybody come. We're only going to allow people to come that really need a day of reckoning. And we're going to have a day of reckoning for you. We're going to invite you to take a journey inward. And you may be horrified what you see. You may be overwhelmed with what you find, but you may be overjoyed with the outcome. So it is called The Reckoning, and we're doing it at Tall Timber Ranch. And we only have so many rooms, and we don't want to have a lot of people, but we will also make it available through video afterwards. So if you can't come and you can't afford it, or you're unable to make it for whatever reason, you'll be able to find out what we did later on. But we'd love to have some truly searching people come to this event. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I know that we all need a day of reckoning. So we're going to spend some time together. I've got some really interesting speakers coming. I'm trying to verify, and then I'll put out some information on who they are so you guys can see that I have been also a fisher of men and women in my life. If you want more information, please contact the foundation, 800-877-3227, and then follow the prompts and you can get to the information on that. We'll also be putting stuff up on our website, fhu.com. The Reckoning Seminar, October 21 through 24, for a few good men and women. All right? I'm Alan Masters. Now you've heard 2 hours of my soul, 2 hours of the little boy that is no longer afraid to speak my truth, my understanding, what my Father puts in my heart, my Father in heaven. God bless you all, and thanks. See you next time.